Here are the 10 most important things that I've learned over the last 10 years as a 3D artist. Number 1, anytime you're modeling anything, you have to make sure to bevel almost every single edge. Here's an example of an object where I bevel the edges, and here's an example of an object where I haven't done this. As you can see, when you bevel the edges, they look a lot nicer, they reflect light in a totally different way. This one over here doesn't have any bevels, that's why it looks like shit. So most people would shade their edges by selecting an object and going up here to Object, Shade Auto Smooth, but that gives you shitty edges. Instead, you can select all the sharp edges and press Ctrl B. You just have to create a bevel which has 2 segments and a shape value of 1. That's gonna keep everything nice and low poly, and that way when you go up here to Object, Shade Smooth, now you're gonna have nice bevels on your corners and everything's gonna look a lot more realistic. Here's a closer look at how these edges are behaving as a result of the bevels. And once again, here's how it looked like before. The difference is obvious. Number 2, if you're trying to make something look realistic, you're gonna have to use an HDRI for some environmental lighting. This is extremely simple. All you have to go is go to Google, type in HDRI, click on the first website, find whatever environment you want and whatever is suitable for you. Click on whatever you like and you can use this purple download button to download that to your computer. Now you gotta load that shit into Blender. So go over to the shading workspace, make sure you switch here from object to world, and with Shift A you're gonna add an environment texture node. Click on open, find your HDRI in your downloads folder either by searching for EXR or sometimes HDR. In this case I don't have any HDRs. Open it up, plug the color into color, and now when you go to rendered view, you're gonna have this HDRI casting light into your scene. You can also make the background transparent by going out here to render properties, opening up the film section and checking transparent right here. Number 3, you don't have to use fancy texturing programs if you want to create good textures for your models, especially if you're doing product visualization like something like this. There's a much easier way to create these kind of textures which just have a simple material in the background and some type of text or label or icon or decal or whatever else on top. Here's an example of a very simple texture that I've created for the label of a hair product. Here's another texture which is supposed to be on the sticker on top of the product, and here's what that looks like on this object in Blender. We even made a barcode and we put everything together. As you can see, it doesn't have to be any better than this. All of this shit is completely free. You just gotta use some of the basic tools available to you inside of Canva. Number 4, if you want to get good at modeling, you have to learn about as many of the tools that you have in Blender as possible. So go to edit mode, make a list of all the tools that you can see over here, open up all these menus, dig everything up and make sure to write it down so that later you can go watch tutorials for every single tool. Check out all these menus and all these tools up here. Educate yourself about as many of the modifiers as you can, and that way when you have to create something complicated, it's not going to be a problem because you know all the tools that exist inside of Blender. You're immediately going to be able to think of 100 different ways to create anything. It's a really simple thing that you can do. This is probably the best way that you can invest your time when you're learning Blender. If you want to speed this up, I just released a new course where you're going to have access to 6 hours of Blender tutorials just for this type of shit. Everything that you're ever going to need from modeling and texturing and animating and rendering and lighting in Blender is going to be there. You're also going to get access to a community where you're going to have other professional 3D artists around you that are going to take you by the hand and guide you through the process of becoming a professional so you can learn how to use Blender properly and also master all the other skills that you're going to have to get good at if you want to become a pro. So check that out, the link is below. Number 5, you have to specialize in a specific area of 3D modeling. Anything you work on has to be created specifically for that purpose. This is where most people fuck up. Most people's portfolio consists of one of these, then some random object like this, then there's probably going to be a house, and something else which is completely unrelated to everything else. And the entire portfolio is a complete mess because it's not clear what you actually do and what services you can provide. So you want to get good at one thing in particular so that when somebody searches for something like Vila 3D design, they can come across your profile and they can see that your profile is designed specifically for that one purpose. That way when they see your profile, they're going to see this is exactly what you do. You're the person to hire for this service. Somebody who's looking to hire somebody to design a Vila for them in 3D. They don't want to see characters, they don't want to see guns, they don't want to see anything else. If it's very clear that you specialize in one thing, it gives off the impression that you are the best guy at this particular job, and that's how you're going to be able to target clients more effectively, and it's also going to be a better way for you to gain some more experience in doing one particular thing. If you know how to do everything, you ain't good at nothing. Number 6, if you want to make your models look really good but you don't want to spend 10 days rendering that shit overnight, you don't have to use cycles to create really good renders. You can do this in Eevee. Now by default Eevee looks like shit, but here's a couple of things that you can do to make Eevee look better. In the render properties, first check screen space reflections. That's going to enable reflections from your materials. Then enable ambient occlusion. That's massively going to improve your shading. And finally check bloom. That's going to make everything glow and it's going to look a lot more realistic. You're going to have to open up all these menus and play around with the settings a little bit. For example, you're definitely going to have to adjust the bloom radius. In screen space reflections, you're probably going to have to crank up max roughness, reduce edge fading, and do a couple of other things that are going to make this look a lot better. But once you enabled ambient occlusion, bloom, and screen space reflections, it's going to look 6 million times better. It's also going to render 6 million times faster. After I figured this out, I hardly ever use cycles anymore. Number 7, anytime you're modeling anything, you're going to need 2 types of references to begin with. You're going to need a blueprint and you're going to need pictures that you can look at on your screen as you're working. This is very important. To get a blueprint, you can just go to Google Images and type in whatever blueprint, pick an image that you like and save that to your computer. Then in Blender, go to Side View, Shift A image reference, find the picture that you downloaded and scale it up, push it into the background. You might also want to make it a little bit transparent using this opacity slider in the properties menu here. Then you're gonna have to Google PureRef and download this little program. It's super simple. That's gonna give you this canvas that you can always keep on top of your screen. And you can just take any image from Google, right click, copy image, and then Control V to paste that into PureRef. And now when you go to Blender, you're gonna have this canvas showing you these images. You might want to go right click, mode, always on top. And I recommend you put this over your outliner because you're not gonna need that shit anyway. That's the right way to set up references in Blender. Number 8, here's a foolproof way to set up the lighting in your scene manually. You can use this lighting method for almost anything. It's as simple as it gets. First, with Shift A, you're gonna add a new area light and you're gonna place that above your scene in the middle. You're gonna scale it up, and in the lamp properties, you're gonna crank up the power for this lamp. You might want to change the shape to disc so it's a circular light. You also might want to change the color of this light to a light blue color. That's gonna make it look a lot more realistic. After that, you're gonna have to place more area lights all around your scene, as you can see right here. The easiest way to do that is to just add another area light and lift it up like this. Then use your 3D cursor to pivot it around the middle like this. G and double Z to push it outwards. Once again, you can scale this up and increase the power. And then while your 3D cursor is the pivot point, you're going to duplicate this, right click, and rotate it and place it somewhere else. And just keep doing this until you have a bunch of lights all around your scene like this. You can take this a step further and make the lights on the right side cold and the lights on the left side warm. To do that, you have to select these 3 lights on the right side and give them some sort of light blue color. Then select the lights on the left side and give them a light orange color. This is going to give you a hot-cold effect. It's going to make everything look a lot more realistic. For example, this is going to look like sunshine is reflecting off of something, and this is going to look like there's a window showing the sky. In general, this is a lighting principle that's going to make everything look a lot more attractive. You also want to make sure to pay attention to the reflections in the object caused by this light. This is going to have a huge impact on how attractive the object looks in the end. And you're going to have to play around with this a little bit until you get something that looks good. Number 9, you have to get good at topology. This is non-negotiable. Most people avoid topology, but you can't get very far without having good topology. Your models are going to look a lot more realistic if you have good topology. Your workflow is going to be a lot better. You're going to be able to create things which would otherwise be impossible. And it's also something that professional studios are definitely going to check if they're trying to hire you. It's always going to give you a competitive edge. I learned topology from Thomas Colin. He's the king of topology. Go watch his videos on YouTube. He's going to teach you everything you need to know. I also got this model right here from him. Number 10, talk to ChatGPT for advice on how to become a professional, how to become a better 3D artist, how to make money as a 3D artist, what industries you can get to as a 3D artist. It's almost like a mentor, which is completely for free, and he has all the information in the world. He literally knows everything that the human race knows. Here's an example. You can just tell him, I am a 3D artist that specializes in product visualization. What are some ways that I can make money? He's gonna come up with a whole bunch of ideas that you probably haven't thought of before. You can ask him to explain anything a little bit more specifically. You can ask him for more guidance on how to pursue any of these things. Now, if you need some more directions and you want to master Blender and become a professional, then go check out the Digitally Enhanced program with the link below. We got a whole bunch of people in there that have exactly what you're looking for, or they're exactly on the same path. Let me know what you want to see next. I'll see you in the next one.